Let's talk about the Uncharted movie. We finally
Let's
made
do
it.
it.
So, over the last couple of weeks, we had my impressions when it first came out, and then you guys gave some quick impressions last week. This week will be entirely spoiler filled with plot and everything. So, if you haven't seen the movie yet and are planning to and care at all about spoilers, uh, turn this off now, go watch the movie, and then you can come back and listen to this. So, first, I think let's talk about the biggest elephant in the room is the casting choice. Specifically for you've got Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg as the two main characters in Nathan Drake and Sully, along with the other casting choices. What are your thoughts seeing the movie now on that choice of those two leading and any of the other cast members? Zach, I'll throw it
Yes.
to you first.
Yeah. I think that the casting was clearly Hollywood stars as opposed to people who'd actually fit the role. I think that they did okay jobs at acting. I don't think they did really any good job at all playing the characters. Tom Holland clearly just felt like Spider-Man, like the
Yeah,
character he just
it was
plays.
basically
And
Tom Holland
I
is Spider-Man.
did not like Mark Wahlberg as Sully, like at all. Um, I thought he was fine for just what he was going for, but it just didn't ever click as Sully for me. So I think that they're the two main castings very very off. Liked the girl who played Chloe. She had a weird accent, but I think she did a fine job.
She felt like Chloe,
Um,
as
Yeah, I thought so too.
when the other characters don't really feel like their characters very much.
and then uh, Antonio Banderas really felt like an Uncharted villain up until the end of the movie.
Not even the end of the movie, partway through.
Just like, yeah, 2/3 of the way through the movie when they just got rid of him.
When they slit his throat and zero blood came out.
That choice made the movie fundamentally worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Logan, what casting choices?
Dude, I tried throughout the movie to get on board with Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg as Nate and Sully. I just couldn't do it. It just felt like I was watching an action movie with those two actors just like playing them like basically the characters they always play. Like it just felt like I'm watching Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg. It never felt like watching Nate and Sully. It just did not feel that way. And yeah, it's weird how much he just felt like Spider-Man. And like a really key example of that is the big set piece scene from Uncharted 3, the cargo plane scene when he's leaping up the cargo crates and there's a guy he accidentally like murders. He sends him to his death, right? And as he's flying away, Nate in the movie shouts, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Nate in the games is like, he's kind of an ass. Like he's just
Like,
taking dudes out and he
doesn't care.
And in this, it was like very Spider-Man. Oh, I accidentally killed you. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it's like, no, that's just not the Nate character. And I know it's young Nate, so I know he isn't that fully hardened adventurer yet. But it's still like, I guess I didn't see the progression of like him turning into the Nate from the game. So his characterization really, really bothered me. I was not a fan. And he never really grew on me. Even in the post-credit scene, which was the intro to Uncharted 1, it still didn't feel like them. So I was really not a fan of the casting.
Yeah, I think Tom Holland was worse for me than Mark Wahlberg. I didn't think
I
that Mark
agree.
Wahlberg was Sully, but I don't know. Something about the way that he carried himself in some way, I was like, all right, I can kind of see it there. I think part of that has to do with Spider-Man just coming out. And so it is fresh in your mind of like, this is Spider-Man. This is the Tom Holland character of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And like even when they try and like have him put on the gear and like have these moments where it's like, oh, now he's like becoming Nathan Drake. It's like, no, it's Tom Holland and he put on a Nathan Drake cosplay. I did that at a convention a couple of years ago.
And you
And
cut a line,
yeah, I did. I don't know if Tom Holland did that.
probably.
And it's always it's just frustrating seeing that fan movie and seeing Nathan Fillion and being like, that is him. That is Nathan Drake to a T. Not just how he looks, even though it looks like Nathan Drake, but like in his mannerisms and how he carries himself, that's Nathan Drake. but they have to get the money, and it's that whole thing of like, yeah, this movie is done very well, but I do, wonder to an extent. Tom Holland is a very bankable actor right now. Like, how well would the movie have done with the people that don't care about Uncharted, who see it, and it's not Tom Holland, it's Nathan Fillion or somebody else? I don't think it would do as well.
People like Nathan Fillion too. It's not like he's a name.
Yeah,
like,
but I think,
like him.
But Tom Holland brings in just a much wider group of people. He is, with Spider-Man, he is just uber popular. That movie did so well. So on the box office side, I'm like, all right, I get it, but it just didn't feel like that, and that it kind of dragged throughout the rest of the movie. It's just like these aren't the characters. Yeah, that was very disappointing. We touched on the story for a second there. Antonio Banderas is the villain. Like, on the one hand, I was a little bit surprised when they killed him off, but on the other end, it didn't do anything to help the story out. I think it made the main villain by the end was not. I barely remember her at all. It's not like Antonio Banderas is a great villain, but
no.
But I think his henchman who took over was no better.
This is what bothered me. I didn't like a lot of the story because why didn't they just do Uncharted 4? Like, what? This was so close to Uncharted 4, but it was a different treasure. It was a slightly different treasure. It was still in pirate ships in a hidden cave, but it wasn't the story of Avery and Libertalia, but it was basically that. And then you had the same dynamic between the two main villains. This rich guy who feels entitled to the treasure for some familial reason. That's Rafe. It's literally Rafe. And then this tough female mercenary that he hires and all of her goons to get the treasure for him. That's Nadine. It was literally Rafe and Nadine, but they changed their names. And I'm just like, why didn't you just commit to Uncharted 4? You even had all the Sam stuff and the brother stuff in here.
Yeah, the brother stuff felt weird too.
Yeah,
because
it's like if
he wasn't in the movie, like at all.
He's in the post-credit scene.
Like they allude to him a lot, and that's like a driving force of certain things, for better or for worse. Yeah. But like, he's not in the movie. And that was the opening.
It's nice that I didn't know that he was going to be in the movie going into it, because like right before the movie started, Logan leans over to me and he's like, "Is Sam in this movie?" I'm like, "No." And then the movie opens, it's like Nathan and Sam. I'm like,
there he is.
Also, let me just say, I thought that young Nate and young Sam looked like young Nate and young Sam from the game. I thought that those great casting.
That was the best casting in the movie.
And then young Nate morphs from young Nate to Tom Holland. I'm like, no,
it's crazy.
No.
Yes. Yeah. This story clearly leans the most heavily on Uncharted 4, with some hints of Uncharted 3 in there, but they really shake up the origin story to make it a lot more digestible for a new audience, where Sam just rips through it in the beginning of the game, gives him the ring, and then just like leaves Nate at the orphanage, as opposed to... We're spoiling the movie. We're probably not spoiling the games, are we?
Yeah, we're spoiling the games.
All right. People already know.
I already did.
In the games, yeah.
Hopefully you played that collection.
Sam and Nate leave the orphanage together, grow up, and then, go in and out of jail, eventually meet Sully, and then, move on with the rest of the story. But in this, he just leaves, and Nate doesn't see him for 12 years, finds out he's dead, quote unquote, and then uses the postcards he's been getting for the last... This is another thing that didn't make sense to me, because Sam was in the church where the clues led. So Did he solve it and find the treasure, or did he get stuck somewhere and arrested? Because he had the postcards from the church that they had to follow the clues to get to.
I guess that's where the thing ended for him, where he was killed. Obviously he wasn't, but I guess that's where his journey ended at that point, I guess.
Yeah.
Sam and Sully were working on getting this treasure together. Wouldn't have Sully known about the church where he found the postcard?
It's a good question.
Well, I guess really confusing what the question was Sully, was he going to get betrayed? So maybe Sam was, trying to play dumb at a
There's
certain
a lot of
point.
betrayal
no
in
one
this
in
film.
this
Yeah.
game trusted anyone.
Exactly.
It was
So
so much.
maybe you assumed
They
that
hated-
Sam was trying to was
Sully hated
assuming
Nate.
that he was
Like,
going to get backstabbed,
Hayden,
but
Nate, yeah.
I know we're jumping around a lot, but like Nate gives Chloe the wrong coordinates at the end. And you're like, oh, she's going to swoop in and help them in the final fight. Nope. She's just not in the last act of the movie. She's just not
He
there.
got rid of her.
Like,
So speaking
That's
on
so
that last
weird.
part, I want to talk about the beginning as well. But since we're at that point in the movie, before we jump back, I have a question about. So Nate finds out that the main villain is going to like the wrong location, and it's like, oh, I've got to look at these postcards or whatever and figure out where this location is. At what point was he driving the boat right next to them so that they could see where he was going? I thought they were on different sides of the island. He's like, oh wait,
He had to go right
it's
past him so they could
it's
see
not
him
it's not
and follow
here.
him.
It's
Yeah.
over there. But no, wait, I'm gonna drive my boat.
He's gonna go
which
all the way
also
around.
which also brings up the other question of how long was he driving that boat with them following him, but to
Mhm.
still be
Didn't
able to
notice
get
it.
in and have enough time. I don't know. That was
Nate was an idiot.
that
in
was
this
my
movie
biggest
so many
biggest question.
times.
Was like, how did that happen?
Yeah, Nate was not smart, and it happened so many times to like just push the plot forward. Also, the biggest plot hole in the movie is Chloe lifting the cross from Nate's backpack, literally
touch
without
him.
touching him. Did
Was
not hug
the
him.
Funniest thing.
Literally zero physical contact
What are
was
you doing?
made.
Check your backpack. So he goes digging to the bottom of his backpack where assumably the cross was, and it's not there. So
Yeah.
at some point she reached her hand into his backpack, shuffled around to the bottom, grabbed it without him noticing.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Which makes no
unbelievable. Yeah.
Going back to the beginning of the movie though, I thought that the movie was already about 2 hours long, so I'm glad that they didn't stretch things out any longer than they had to. But still, at the same time, I felt that beginning of them getting together was really rushed. Especially
I thought so, too.
for, like, I went and saw this with my girlfriend, and she has no attachment or whatever to Uncharted, and she doesn't know these characters. And she was sitting there like, why did he go back? Like, why did... What happened there?
Happens
Like,
twice,
it was
where he
so
decides
quick
to
where it was
leave.
like, no, go away.
Tell Sully no,
And
yeah.
then-
And then
yeah.
immediately it just shows him thinking about Sam, and then he calls Sully and he's like,
Yeah,
I mean,
it was so instantaneous.
No
And for
reason,
me, I was like, all right, that was kind of dumb, but like, all right, I know these characters, they'll get together and do it. But for someone who doesn't know these characters, it's kind of jarring.
I felt that about the beginning Sam exposition too. Like, yeah, I know the Drakes, I know their story, but then he just rips through the orphanage and the treasure, and you're a Drake, and it's like, but you're a Drake, but are you in this universe? Like, I just don't know. And I thought that was like the first 20 minutes of the movie was like rapid fire. For if you didn't know Uncharted, I don't know if you would be like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was weird.
So it was actually kind of nice to go and see it with someone who doesn't know these characters. Because for me, I can accept certain things or just be like, I know these characters, so like whatever, even if the characters don't really feel like themselves. But for someone who does not know these characters, sometimes I feel like you can get a little lost, or like they expect you to know things or hope that
Yeah.
you know things, and some people just don't. So yeah, that was interesting. What are your thoughts on some of the action sequences? So a lot of them are taken from the games. The final scene I thought was pretty cool, and that was not tied. I think it was the best because it didn't have any ties to the games, and so they were able to kind of do whatever they wanted. They kind of changed the auction a little bit, but it had
It was worse.
it was a very similar feel, and then
really
the
shined on Nate's stupidity to not be able to turn out the lights.
and then
Yeah.
the plane scene was basically the same.
But there was a car this time.
There was a car.
So it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, what were your thoughts on some of the action sequences? I guess there was like combat sequences as well where they're like going through the
Fight in the Pizza Hut.
Yeah,
was pretty
no, it was
cool.
Papa
Papa
John's.
John's?
Oh, it was a Papa John's. Sorry, my bad.
Papa John himself is protecting that wall,
Yep.
and no one calls the cops.
No, not a
Mhm.
single
Anyways,
person.
yeah. What are your thoughts on some of the action
I was
sequences?
like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
The last boat sequence was by far the best.
cool.
I thought that was pretty cool. it seemed weird. Yeah, those helicopters were holding up those massive ships, and they were just like swinging.
I
back
mean,
and
to be
forth. It
fair,
seemed a little weird.
if Tom Holland, I don't know, I feels weird calling him Nathan Drake. If he
It
can
does.
if he can survive that fall from the plane, that whole scene was wild. Then
It was like Fast and Furious.
yeah. Where I was like,
It was
I really
awesome.
got to suspend my disbelief here. Then those helicopters, I think, could carry those planes or those boats in this universe.
Yeah, that scene was the best because it was the most different, and it was the same setup as Uncharted 4, but in Uncharted 4, spoilers, they don't get the ships out, and I always wondered what was the game plan here. So to then see a version of what the game plan could have been to actually get that treasure, I thought was fun. But then this is dumb, but like I was thinking when the villains had one ship and Tom and Mark had the other, I was just like, and then the villains divert to T-bone the main character's ship. I was like, yo, you got billions.
Yeah.
Just cut your losses and take half. Just go. They outsmarted you. Just part ways.
Yeah,
you
should feel lucky that you got the half because you were in the wrong spot, and it was only because you had Spider-Man on his boat driving past.
Yeah, totally. So I thought that it was a great action.
Yeah,
and the cannonball was fun.
Yeah,
I liked a lot of that.
But yeah, Zach, any thoughts on some of the action sequences?
I thought the plane scene was just slightly worse, and I was still a little sour that they had killed the main villain and swapped main villains just shortly before they fell out of the plane, which was greatly upsetting. But yeah, definitely by far the boats from the end of the movie swinging through. Very confusing why they didn't just take the boat and leave, but
movie logic, you gotta suspend disbelief again.
right at the end on that boat, he gets like the holster, so he like finishes his transformation into Nathan Drake.
But Peter to Nathan.
Peter to Nathan. That was pretty cool.
From Tom to Tom.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, there were almost no gunfights. Like, did Nate even fire a gun in this movie until the end? He gets a gun on the ship, and that's it. So I was wondering, like, Uncharted is all about the gunfights. It's like, how are they going to make an Uncharted movie with basically no guns? The villains had some guns, but the main characters really didn't. So now going forward, I wonder, the post-credit scene is Uncharted 1. It is the setup for that movie. Is Nate just going to be, like, shooting guys left and right now because we're at game Nate now? Or is it going to be more weird alternate universe takes on the games where guns really aren't as much as a focus to keep that kind of... Well, it wouldn't work as well as in a movie if they were just popping guys left and right.
So many deaths in those games because that's the gameplay.
Like John Wick at that point. Yeah.
So I just do wonder. But I was a little impressed though with how well they were able to not make me notice the lack of guns when that is such a focus in the games.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't go that direction because it has been pointed out that Nathan Drake is bloodthirsty with the amount of people that he's killed.
God.
Like, the body count is so high. So it was nice that they didn't go that direction. On the alternate universe thing, now that we're seeing like more convergence with like actual main plots from the games, man, I kind of hope that they go off and do their own thing because I don't want to have these timelines get muddied at all with, I guess it already is, but
now Sam's gonna have to be
these
in the
need
plots
to be
for the first
completely
movie.
separate because they
the
have
first
already diverged so far from the games that I feel like they kind of have to do their own thing. Because at a certain, besides they can bring in the action scenes, they're going to keep doing that. They want to do that, whatever. But in terms of like story, they've already changed so much that I feel like it'd be kind of hard to bring some of this stuff in because they've already, I feel like, rewritten certain things. So I kind of hope they go off and do their own thing because they are making more movies.
Yeah, I feel that too. By far the best parts of this movie were when they were different. Like the one in hell, one in heaven, where Mark Wahlberg is up top on the streets and
that was cool.
Nate and Chloe are down below. That was different, and it felt like a puzzle you do in the game.
Yeah,
totally.
I thought that
that
underground scene, the above ground and below ground, was pretty cool. And I mean, Papa John's was a little bit weird, but the
Thought it
fight
was
scene was
funny.
still kind of cool, despite
Yeah.
being in a Papa John's. But
And then when they had to like go through that rave, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Just like how culture has built itself around these historic sites that they just have to work through. I
Just
thought that
kinda-
was neat.
just kind of glad that they didn't bust into one of like the rooms with all the stuff in it when they were building out these areas,
Yeah,
because
build-
apparently it was secret. So
Yeah.
lucky play that they
Yeah.
didn't bust in any of those ruins. But
Mhm.
more stuff that you kind of have to not think about too hard. That is
Yeah.
kind of this movie.
Mhm.
But
Totally.
yeah, so we kind of alluded to it a little bit, but now that the movie is done quite well at the box office, and now they're like, all right, this is a franchise. Two questions. Where do you see it going, and where do you want it to go from here for whatever comes next with the next movie? Logan, I'll go to you first.
I would. I mean, my dream would be they age him and recast him,
That'd be-
but that's
that'd
not
be-
going to happen.
Yeah, that would be incredible, and they're not going to do that.
Uh-huh. But I just want the more different, the better. As a super fan of the games, every action scene they took was worse in the movie, because that's just how it's going to be. Because when you're in the games, it feels special because you're doing it, and then when you see it replicated by Tom Holland on screen, it's like, I've seen this before, but it's worse. So I just really would appreciate it if they were more different. And then I'm more curious than anything to see how they're going to incorporate like Sam into the Uncharted 1 plot. Like, what is that movie?
It's gonna be weird.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Uncharted 1's entirely in a jungle. Like, where are they going to go in that movie? Yeah. Is Elena going to come in? Bring in Elena.
I assume. Would bet
You-
money that they
she would
bring
have to come
Elena
in at some
actress
point.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am very curious how they're going to go about that, like of stitching things together, because what I want them to do is, yes, diverge and take some, if you want to take some action scenes from the games to be like, "Oh yeah, we tried that in this." Like, I know they're going to do that, and that's fine. But I do kind of want them to go off and do their own thing and kind of have a different universe, Nathan Drake, because at this point it's just Uncharted light, basically.
Yeah.
When I finished watching the movie, I wasn't like, "Oh, that was a really good movie." It was like, "Man, I really want to play Uncharted 4." So I'm excited to play the collection whenever I get a PS5. So yeah, I hope they go off in a different direction, but I'm kind of worried that what they're going to do is take those action scenes and take the plots of the games and kind of just like stitch them together, and then just be like, "Oh wait, we introduced Sam at a different point. Let's bring him in here," and then like it just becomes a mess. And I could see that kind of happening. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit, but integrating Sam into any plot going forward is gonna be really weird, because the way you're supposed to do it is that his reintegration goes hand in hand with the thing that you're solving, but the thing that they were working on was the Magellan plot, which they've already solved. So him coming into their, let's say it's El Dorado, he's just going to be along for the ride. He's not going to contribute anything with his return.
He
So
secretly has a huge investment in that one.
There's-
He's secretly an expert.
He was in the German U-boat in 1945.
Dang.
So I really have no idea how they're going to integrate him into the story. He'll have to have some connection, because they'll have to find him, because I don't know if he's just going to escape from prison or they're going to figure out that he's in there. I don't see how would, outside of maybe him getting a postcard or a letter sent to Nate.
all
But
these postcards.
I see
Yep.
Elena
He's
coming
writing
in.
another one.
They've already set up Eddie, Raja, and Roman, some of the bad guys from the first game. I have no idea if they're gonna go with the zombie kind of thing that Uncharted
Yeah.
1 pulls at the end. I think it'd be cool if they did some sort of supernatural things in these movies. So I don't know. I think we just gotta wait and see, because I'm pretty confident it's gonna get made.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think the movie has done well enough now that that we're gonna get another one, and I don't think it will take near as long as this movie did. Final thoughts on the movie as a whole. I think for me at this point, it's a fine movie. It's got a lot of issues, but we were talking about it the other show, where it's just like, at this point I'm impressed that the movie came out at all. Like, they went through
I
so
know.
many directors, and they've been talking about this movie for so long that I'm honestly surprised that it came out and the story, while nothing spectacular in any way, was coherent. Like, from start to finish, they were doing the same thing and working towards the same goal, and it all, to some extent, made sense. And at this point, I feel like that's enough for me, and that it didn't offend me with how bad it was. It was average.
And the structure felt very much like Uncharted. You open in the middle of the big action, then you do the young flashback, then you go to the one place, and then you learn it's not the place, so you fly across the world to the other place, and then there's a big battle to end it. It had that structure. It was good enough. What is with these movies, though? Not letting the characters look like they're supposed to till the post-credit scene. They did the exact same thing with Eggman in the Sonic movie, where he looks like Jim Carrey, but a little different, and then he looks like Eggman. And then Sully doesn't get his mustache till the post-credit scene. And not only that, they spoiled both of those post-credit scene moments for Sonic and Uncharted in the trailers.
Yep.
It's like, what are you doing? I don't get this weird formula. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's weird. Zach?
But it was good enough.
Yeah.
I'll see another one.
Yeah. I'd go to the next one.
Yeah. Begrudgingly, but I will.
Zach?
Yeah.
What was the question?
What the final thoughts of the movie?
Final thoughts, man. Definitely extremely low expectations, so I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't unbearable to sit through. I think the casting, terrible choice, but the plot beats, had some interesting action sequences, some good puzzles, some solid references. Saw a Naughty Dog sticker in there.
Yeah, speaking of
Nolan
references,
North
what'd you think of
cameo.
Nolan North? I was just like,
I wish I hadn't
be
been
in this
spoiled.
movie. You kind of look like him, but he
Did
wouldn't
seem
have
a little
any
weird
sort of
for someone who doesn't know who he
cred.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, something similar happened to me once. Like, who are you? What are you talking about?
But
Yeah.
but for the fans of Uncharted, it's just like, there's Nate. He's right there.
Yeah.
That was the one
There.
time that Nate was in the movie.
Give him a
And
gun.
back to Tom Holland, back to Spider-Man and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm just glad it wasn't total garbage. But yeah, it was
Meh.
yeah.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Can't wait for Sonic 2.
That
I
Sonic
cannot
set,
wait for
yep.
Sonic.
Let's go
Sonic's going to be awesome next month.
Yeah. Man, so many video game movies. Come
God of
on.
War TV show just got announced.
It's true.
Woo. Yeah. All right. Well,
We got to go, huh?
Uncharted. That was it. Glad we got to talk about it. I'm glad that it came out and wasn't the worst thing in the world, but at the same
I'm glad it
time,
came out.
I just, think back to the fan film, and I'm just like, man, I would
Watched it
kill.
yesterday.
I would kill for that cast, for that feel. That feels like Uncharted. This feels like an action movie where somebody puts on a Nathan Drake suit at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But
And slowly grows a mustache.
it's only grows a mustache at the very end if you stuck
Yeah.
around past the initial credits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.